But if I ever needed to, this is pretty fractional.
Yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
would hate to cut it up. I hate to cut it up,
Yeah.
but if I had to, I would know that each link is, half a gram or whatever it would be.
That's a
And
that's a
yeah,
great point, and I somehow have never thought of that idea in my life of cutting the individual links up to have a bunch of fractional pieces. That's brilliant. Hi, welcome to the GG Bullion podcast. Today I have on Caroline Clark, co-owner of Timio, which makes 24 karat gold and 999, I'm sorry, 995 fine silver jewelry. How are you doing, Caroline?
good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on. It's interesting to have you on because I do not personally really wear jewelry. I don't really know that much about it, aside from like, I know the different carats and whatnot. But I don't know much about the industry itself. I never really was a jewelry guy. So I'm, especially because your company makes 24 karat gold and basically like fine silver jewelry. Most jewelry I see is not really that high purity or kind of almost investment grade level. So if I were to get any of that, that would be kind of the stuff that I would be looking at. So it's great to have you on.
Thank you.
Um, so first question I have for you is just I guess tell us a little bit about yourself. Like how did you first get into precious metals and how did you both first get into the jewelry business and decide to have the jewelry be 24 karat gold or fine silver and not, what things would normally be like lower percentages like 14 karat or whatever.
Yeah, so it really started with my dad and his story. He was born in 1930,
Mhm.
and so Depression era. When he was a young boy, like say, oh, so at age three, there was Executive Order
Mhm.
6102, I believe it was, with all the U.S. citizens had to turn in all but 5 ounces or $100 of their gold,
Mhm.
or face, a fine, hefty fine, or 10 years in prison.
Yeah.
Well, he was too young to probably really get that. But growing up, he grew up in a rural farm
Mhm.
community. His dad was a farmer and a banker, so I'm sure he heard bits and pieces of the economic situation.
Mhm.
Um, and then when he was around 10 or so, he'd go into town with his parents and he'd sneak off to the jewelry store. And he was fascinated by the little gems and things that
Mhm.
sparkled, and that something so small could be so valuable. And that just really made an impact on him. And he went on to, go to college and have an aviation career. That was his business in
Mhm.
aviation. But he never, that the precious metals was always with him. What's interesting too about that executive order was the exceptions were jewelry, dentistry,
Mhm.
and art.
Yeah.
So they didn't take your jewelry, obviously, any gold fillings and so
Mhm.
forth. And that was another thing that he always remembered. Um, and so I would say I'm going a little bit into his history because it's just so tied into
Mhm.
Timio and then me getting into it. Um, Around 80, 85 or 80s, early 80s, he had some spare time. So he wanted to start this passion of cutting gemstones. So he became
Mhm.
GIA certified. And then, once you cut gemstones, you need to mount them. So, he started metalsmithing and so
Mhm.
forth. And during one of his travels, he had some businesses with some gold mines, one
Mhm.
in Nevada and one in California. Nothing panned out with those, but he was always going back and forth. And
Yeah.
uh, he, um, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought on that. Um,
Oh no, it's all good. You were talking about how he had some gold mining properties and he was cutting gems, got into
yeah.
smithing.
So he had met someone on his travels that was wearing a 22 karat gold chain from Thailand, and he recognized the metal, and
Yeah.
he asked him about it because he hadn't seen that before. And so he had said, yeah, it's 22 karat, it's handmade in Thailand. And the guy was like, it's money, it's universal money. Anywhere I
Mhm.
travel in the world, I know I can get home if something happened, I can sell it.
Mhm.
It's easy to travel with and so forth. And so my dad thought that was pretty interesting. And so he went on a quest to make 14 or go from 14 karat gold. He tried that, made
Mhm.
a chain, went to 18, and then he wanted it to be 24 karat. And at the time, everybody said you can't do that. It's too soft.
Mhm.
And he just didn't believe him.
Yeah.
And so, that's when he started that. And then 93 is when he started Timio. Again, he had his aviation business still going as well, but he just loved uh, the pure gold jewelry. And really, there was no internet then, or
Mhm.
it was in
Yeah.
its infancy. So getting the word out was very difficult. educating people about what is 24 karat gold. Most people just think gold is 14 karat gold. It didn't
Mm,
register. So yeah, he wanted to make 24 karat, and but it was hard. It was very difficult to kind of get things moving.
mm,
Uh, and then I helped him. He had a big order at one point, and so I helped him with that. I was in college at the time.
mm,
And then around 2000 is when he really switched to silver because of all of his research. Obviously, loved gold,
mm.
but with silver and its potential, how the price has been so suppressed, he saw the investment potential in it, and it was more economical for him to work with. So
Yeah.
he started on that. And I remember thinking, Dad, you're going from 24 karat gold to silver. You know what I mean? But I didn't understand
Mm,
what he knew about silver. And it's, as you know, it is so beautiful, fine silver. And in jewelry, all I really see out there is sterling, which is still high silver content.
yeah.
It's 92.5% silver. But again, it's that purity,
Yeah.
and fine silver is going to tarnish less.
Mm,
Um, and it's the whitest metal, most reflective. It's so beautiful.
mm.
And so fast forward to 2016, I started to do some research on some other things, and everything sort of connects. And I started to see that he wasn't so crazy, with his silver fascination.
Mm,
And at the time, he was 86 years old, and he was still cutting gems. He was still making chains for himself, just he loved to do it. And I said, I need to know what he knows.
mm,
I'm the youngest of four, and I know that he really wanted to pass on his knowledge. And so I just made it a point to learn everything I could from him.
mm,
Gem cutting a bit as well, which is a whole nother thing.
mm.
But when he passed in 2018, I think it was a couple years later, I then got all of his equipment to where I live, and we were able to kind of set up a workshop, and I couldn't do it alone, but it was
Mm,
my oldest daughter and her husband said, let's do this,
mm.
get this going again. And so both my daughters and my son-in-law are involved.
Okay. And unless I missed it, how long have you been doing that for since you kind of restarted it?
So since I'd say 2018.
2018. Okay, cool.
Mm.
So that'd be about what, 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, but
Okay,
really ramping it up these last couple of years.
gotcha. Okay, cool. So I can tell in the way that you talk about silver that you feel kind of the same way I do about it. It is my favorite metal. What can I say? So in addition to the jewelry business, do you like, I guess aside from your business as an investment or whatever, are you at all into silver or gold or other metals, bars, coins, rounds, just for your personal investing or stacking?
Yeah, absolutely. I have, my coins. A lot of that was given to me as gifts from my dad,
Okay.
and boy, do I appreciate that. What a gift.
Mhm.
And so I have the coins. I have grain, which I can use for the jewelry if need be.
Yeah.
The numismatic coins, I haven't really gotten. I have some, but I know, my dad had that collector gene
Mhm.
in his DNA. I have it, and if I wasn't doing the jewelry, I'd be so in on that. I know I
Yeah.
would just. I purchased some recently, and it's so beautiful. And I stick with silver again because I
Yeah.
100% believe in the potential of it.
Yeah.
The price is absolutely suppressed,
Mhm.
no doubt about it. That's a whole. We could talk for days on that, but.
Yeah.
And gold is gorgeous, and I love it. And I obviously have some.
Mhm.
Most of it's in jewelry that my dad made for me.
Mhm.
But yeah, silver, you just can't go wrong. And then this Christmas, I have a new granddaughter, my first
Mhm.
granddaughter. She got her like first nativity coin. She's gonna get a coin every year.
Yeah.
Um, and a little gold and silver book from Scottsdale Mint, children's book. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah. So
Oh,
and then that was my stocking stuffers were some silver coins.
yeah. Well, that's great. So I guess coming at this from kind of a stacker or an investor in precious metals point of view, I know a lot of investors kind of in general, like for their stack, generally avoid jewelry because of the high premiums compared to bullion if it's just for I'm putting metals away for my stack type of thing. So now with 24 karat and it's 995 silver jewelry, which is I was going to say it in parts per million, and I'm not even going to try and do that math right now. I have not had enough coffee. Um, So that's a little bit less than 999, but when we talked before, you said that the hallmark for jewelry that is considered fine jewelry with
Yep.
silver. Sorry, I kind of
Yeah.
derailed my own question there. But so, with the 24 karat and the fine silver jewelry, that's normal. That's like, way higher than you know, sterling silver or 14 karat, which would normally be in most gold jewelry. So that's
Yep.
that's at a level where it's kind of investment purity. So do you see that as a potentially worthwhile investment despite the extra premiums? Or like how do you view that personally, I guess, or how would like if somebody came in and or called you up and was like, hey, I want to get some 24 karat gold or fine silver jewelry partly as an investment, like what would you kind of say to them?
Yeah. I definitely see it as a supplement to your
Mhm.
investment. Stacking, you can't go wrong. That for investment purposes, absolutely. When it comes to jewelry, that market is it's so interesting, and the markups are huge.
Yeah.
Typically, from wholesale to retail, it's a 300% markup. That's just I'm talking general jewelry,
Yeah.
14 karat, and so forth. And there's the intrinsic value, the metal value, or the
Mhm.
gemstones. But then there's also like the aesthetic value. Um, if it's a particular brand, there's that value, and then you've got sentimental value
Mhm.
on top of that. I look at our chains as, yeah, they're absolutely an investment because of the purity of the metal. You know what its value is at any given time. Um, and if you needed to, you could melt it down. Like I said, it's got that intrinsic value.
Yeah.
As far as the premium, there are a few other companies that are doing what we do. Our premiums are lower because we're in house. It's just us. Our
Yeah.
overhead is really low. Yes, it will take more time for that premium to be absorbed.
Yeah.
Uh, but far better, in my opinion, than 14 karat gold. But again, there are purposes for that.
Mhm.
Certain rings, if need it to be a harder metal,
Yeah.
then you have it set in 14 karat. I get it. But if you're an investor and you love gold and silver and you just want some that you can enjoy on a daily basis and have it with you, travel with it. I think it's a little bit easier in a sense than maybe coins in your pocket or something.
Yeah.
Um, have a little, have some jewelry. There's some styles that are more feminine, more masculine. Some people have come to us and they say, I want this many ounces. I want
Yeah.
ounces of gold, and then I would say, well, you probably go with a simple curve style
Mhm.
chain. Yeah, I think the largest one my dad made was 8 ounces.
That's a pretty heavy chain. Um,
That's a really heavy chain.
so yeah, that's kind of how I've always thought of it. I would like to get maybe some gold chain at some point, just because like, okay, if I really needed to, I could travel with this. It'd be relatively inconspicuous, have it under my shirt,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It wouldn't be the average person wouldn't look at it and be like, oh, that's money, or that's like investment property. They'd be like, oh, that's just like your stuff. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I think there's an advantage to it there. So that's something and I've always thought in my head, and I've looked it up before, and it's, in general, there's not a whole lot of 24 karat or fine silver, 24 karat gold or fine silver jewelry out there. You kind of have to either look at like find a company like yours or literally go
Mhm.
to like a precious metals dealer, in my experience, to even find that stuff. And it seems like, from what I can remember, like the stuff that you can find from precious metals dealers are like crazy premiums because they know it's probably just stackers buying a little bit for the purpose I listed.
Mm-hmm.
Because their premiums are like, like higher than what I've seen on like your site. So like quite a bit, last time I looked at least. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I was curious about your thoughts on the liquidity of gold because I was thinking about I don't really wear jewelry myself. I don't really know about it because it's a whole different rabbit hole of stuff to learn about. It feels like, but I know there's a lot of people that I either have worked with or have known or work with now or whatever that the only gold or silver they own is like a gold chain or whatever, and it
Mhm.
might be 14 karat, and it's like $1,000 worth of gold or something. And it seems like when I talk to these people, generally that is, they're saying these different styles, like, oh, it's like a Cuban chain and it's this and that. And it's like, I don't really even know what they're saying. Could you kind of go into that a little bit as far as I guess the different styles of jewelry, things that would be considered like classic, this is going to be really easy to sell for like a decent premium or on like a person to person basis, like on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or something like that,
Yeah.
and kind of how that all works with the different styles. Because honestly, I don't know anything about it, so I'd like to know as well.
Okay, yeah. So like you said, classic style, the Cuban, which is basically a curb style. And I've got some examples here. I don't know
Okay.
how well it will show up on the camera, but just
Okay.
just a basic curb.
Hmm.
Oh my God, you need one of these, I'm telling you. And then so the Cuban style has that flat kind of face to it, where it's almost filed.
Yeah.
That
Hmm.
would be this file. And what's nice about that is it gives it that flash, of
Yeah.
the light. Yeah, and I think that's what people really like. So we could do that. It's tough for me to file the metal. Like I don't want to lose any of the metal,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna do some tests with it with silver and
Hmm.
see, if I can just minimal kind of file to get that flash and see. But that's a classic. This is a paper clip, very popular, like women's style,
Yeah.
very simple. It's very classic. I feel like I can dress it up or dress down. I
Hmm.
honestly don't wear a lot of jewelry either. It's what I make,
Yeah.
obviously. And so let's see. I feel like a lot of our styles are pretty classic. Um, this is a double nautical.
Okay.
Uh, this is one my dad made this for me in 93, and gold was 350 an ounce.
Mhm.
And it's a little over 2 ounces. So $700, let's say the premium, let's say it was $1,000 back then, and now seven, you kind of go, that's not too bad. That's pretty
Mhm.
good. Another simple, but just like a double circle. Again, very classic styles. And we try to stick with that. We've got a
Okay.
few that are a little bit more
Yeah, I guess that
stylistic, like that.
okay, that makes sense.
That's more of a statement piece.
Okay, so would something like that be more difficult to sell and to get the most premium out of when selling? Or like if somebody had it and they're like, "Oh, I need to cash this in for whatever reason," and they went to a jewelry store, like would you get
Mhm.
a lower premium for something that's more, I guess, stylistic like that? Or at jewelry stores, are they pretty much all just gonna send it to a refiner, or how, how does that usually go?
That's a that's a really good question, and I think it comes down to who you're selling it to,
Okay.
and do they see? There's obviously the intrinsic value. There's
Yeah.
always going to be, what is this weigh? What's the cost of the metal? Or what's that worth at that time?
Yeah.
That's the base. If they were to see this and go, oh my goodness, I absolutely love that style. It's so unique. Maybe you'd get more,
Yeah.
possibly.
Okay.
Does
So
that make
this,
sense? That's how I look at
yeah.
it.
So it seems to me that it's almost, I mean, the closest thing in my head that I can really compare it to is like numismatic coins, where it's like you generally you're going to want to find like an individual to sell to, like on
Mm,
whether it's on eBay, somebody you know in real life, or Facebook Marketplace, one of those places, like a private party sale, rather than taking it to like a jewelry store. Would that
right,
be accurate?
right.
I guess.
Yeah, I would think so. Because again, you might get someone that absolutely loves that style and wants it
Mhm.
for that, and is not going to melt it down. you
Okay.
know, Pawn shop or whatever. They're probably just going to look at the metal value, what little they can get for it, because they're going to resell it, or they're going to send it in
Hmm.
and get it refined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, as far as the liquidity goes, I think if it because yeah, I think it does make sense that it would be more like most likely if you took it to a private party sale where you're selling to an individual, that would be the best place to do it. But like if you're going to a jewelry store, or even if I flip it, like if somebody was selling stuff to you that you were going to either use for your business or whatever, and somebody brought in 14 karat and somebody brought in 24 karat, I mean, what would be the price point difference? Would you be looking at those strictly for the metal, or like I'm maybe I'm not forming these questions correctly. Like imagine you had a jewelry store where like a
Mhm.
physical brick and mortar place where some of them you might resell, some of them you might send to a refiner. Would the 24 karat, would you think that those would be like you'd be paying quite a bit more for those? Would there be any additional premium over just the fact that they're more pure? Because I would assume with a refiner they're going to not pay you as much for even the same amount of gold for 9 karat versus 24 karat, because with 24 karat, they just pretty much have to melt it down. With 9 karat, they actually are going to have to refine the gold and silver and copper and whatever else out of that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Much easier process to get the pure metal out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
So
I would think so. You're asking, would you get more for the
yeah.
20? I would think so.
Yeah, I guess it depends like the shop that you're selling
Mhm.
it to, how good of a deal they want to give you. I'll put it that way. Like I'm guessing a
Yeah,
pawn shop is gonna lowball you as hard as possible. That's been my experience with pawn
absolutely.
shops. So
Yeah. And I think with 24 karat, I mean, it's a little bit interesting because here in the States, I don't, again, I don't know that the average person really doesn't understand, 14 and 24. Jewelers would know, but
yeah,
then they would probably think, am I going to have a customer for this?
yeah, because
Am I
like
that type of jeweler?
yeah,
Kind of thing.
yeah, because I guess I don't know. You sell jewelry. Then again, you are selling 24 karat or fine silver stuff, so not the normal alloys, I guess. But
Mhm.
would you say overall, like your customer base is more kind of informed on precious metals, and that's why they are specifically choosing the high purity stuff?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think so. And again, it's an like informing and
Mhm.
educating people, just like my dad really struggled with, but now we've got the internet and social media, and there are other companies that are doing it too,
Mhm.
which I think is good. More and more people are aware of 22 karat, 24 karat. Again, I don't see much fine silver. I don't know why. I think it's that old thought of it being too soft,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it's like it's not. I mean, granted, if you had a really big hoop earring and
Yeah.
that's probably not the most stable, secure thing, but
Yeah.
all of our chains, the way they're made and work hardened, there's
Mhm.
not an issue with fine silver at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, So I'm curious from a business perspective, like how do fluctuating gold and silver prices kind of impact your business? And do your customers tend to buy more during like big dips and hold off when the price shoots up? Because especially silver price can be pretty volatile. And I know
Mhm.
gold has had a big run up this past, year and a half, 2 years. Or do they generally view like your jewelry kind of different than bullion? Like, do you see like a big swing in how much people are buying based on the price of the metals, basically?
Um, not not so much that, but like for our website, we've got the price is connected to the current price of the metals, so it's
Mhm.
constantly fluctuating. Thank goodness, because
Yeah,
we couldn't stay on top of it. So
yeah,
thankfully we have that incorporated, and so I'd say every 15 minutes, it's
mhm.
fluctuating. um, we don't have sales, and because I don't there's companies that do that, and I feel
Yeah,
like you're just waiting for a sale. And for me, when the metal goes down in price, that's a sale.
yeah,
We will have promotions and stuff when we're doing collaborations with
mhm.
people, but we also want the customer to know that they're always getting the best price that we can give them. Right? We have the metal value, and then our maker's fee, which is based on the complexity of
Mhm.
the chain and the length. And so that's calculated. So I would say our customers that are very well aware of the fluctuation in the price of metal
Mhm.
are going to buy more when there's a dip,
Yeah,
just like with coins and stuff. It's like, okay, now it's silver's on sale, let's buy it,
yeah,
or gold's on sale.
yeah, which
Yeah.
which definitely makes sense. Although I feel like I have sometimes almost noticed the inverse. It's almost like when the
Hmm.
price runs up, everybody's excited about it, or maybe it's just the timing of when certain people want it, and then there's certain people that are just
True.
always buying no matter what. Um,
Yep.
but that is interesting. So I've noticed that you have 24 karat gold and fine silver jewelry. It didn't look like you offered any platinum or palladium jewelry. Is that something that you intend to do in the future, or is that something you've looked into? And what do you think of kind of high purity platinum or palladium jewelry, or is that a thing that's really even out there? Because honestly, I haven't even really looked, so I don't know if it's just because there's not a big demand for it.
you know I thought about that, and you never say never, right?
Yeah.
But we really plan to just stick to gold and silver. Just
Okay.
historically, their money, they make such a good pair. They are the same softness on the Mohs scale. So, like I stack this is how I stack, you
Yeah.
know, and so, they work well together.
Mm.
Platinum, yes, it's a harder metal. Again, very good for certain aspects or applications of jewelry. If you're going to have a ring that, you've got a job where you're constantly hitting counters, dishes, or, you know what I mean? You don't
Yeah.
want it to get scratched up and so forth. Um, My dad did a little bit with platinum again, because at that time
Mm,
it was double the price of gold.
yeah.
So it was like, ooh, this is a good metal to pair with gold. But he said it was very
Yeah.
difficult to work with. And so I'm not really so interested in that.
Mm,
So I was just recently looking at the historical charts of gold and
mm,
platinum being more than gold. And
mm,
then in 2016, it flipped
yeah.
and it's like half. So I want to learn more about that. I'm fascinated. I don't know what that's about. I just really feel that, again, silver and the investment potential is incredible.
Mm,
Um, and I love the two together, and being the brightest, the whitest, most reflective metal. I just don't want to deviate from it. But
yeah.
yeah, that's just me.
Yeah. Plus, yeah, platinum is, I would like to do some stuff with platinum at some point, but I would need different equipment and all sorts of stuff because platinum is very difficult to work with, at least from like somebody making the kind of stuff that I'm making, at least
Mhm.
melting it down. That's, I can't remember the melting price off the top of my head. The melting price, can't talk. The melting point off the top of my head, but it's something where you need like an induction furnace basically to melt it down. It's, you know, I don't think we didn't even have the technology to melt it down till like the mid 1800s or so. So platinum's just an interesting one. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how my dad did it, because I know he just had it. You know, he had it just his torch system, kind of basic.
yeah,
Um,
you might be able to do it with oxygen and acetylene, but anyway,
yeah, interesting.
but so, in times of like economic crisis, people generally kind of seem to turn to physical precious metals as a store of value when the fiat money or the stock market crashes and isn't worth much. Um, do you think that high purity jewelry could serve like a similar or maybe even a almost more advanced role than bullion in those situations? For example, like I don't know, if I lived through like the hyperinflation in Weimar, Germany, I'm sure there were a lot of people using jewelry to buy things because the money was literally worthless, like was
Mhm.
worth the like paper it was printed on. Um, so I guess if we ever did experience like hyperinflation, do you think that something being, because I almost feel like jewelry might even be more trusted if it's stamped 24 karat in certain cases than like a fake gold bar. Like a gold bar might be faked with jewelry if it's like
Mhm.
in links where it's an intricate design. It's like, yes, I'm sure there are people out there that would put the effort into counterfeiting it. I'm sure that exists. There's fake jewelry all over the place, just like there's fake bars. Um,
Mhm.
but how do you think that would kind of play out? Because it seems like for the average person, and that would be kind of thrusting metals more into the average person's face if the money wasn't worth anything. Feels like the average person is probably more familiar with jewelry than they are with bullion coins or bars. So I'm just curious on your take on how you think that might play out.
Yeah, I think, jewelry would maintain that value. And like you said, the marking is important. And so, ours is, we've got the trademark, it's marked, it comes with a certification, a certificate of authenticity.
Yeah,
Um, and, yeah, I mean, you can plate it
yeah,
out. You could, I don't know, I guess you could have well, you wouldn't want a platinum chain, but something that's heavy and plated in gold. But I think that's pretty easy to test.
yeah,
And so like one thing with jewelry, again, this was the reason why my dad focused on jewelry, is because it was excluded from that executive order. And he
yeah,
always thought, history repeats itself, just to be safe, type of thing. But if ever needed to, this is pretty fractional.
yeah.
Um,
Oh
I
yeah,
would hate to cut it up. I hate to cut it up,
yeah.
but if I had to, I would know that each link is, half a gram or whatever it would be.
That's a
And
That's a
yeah,
great point, and I somehow have never thought of that idea in my life of cutting the individual links up to
think,
have a bunch of fractional pieces. That's brilliant.
yeah,
That that
that's
actually
how I
kind of
think.
that actually kind of makes me want to get a chain at some point because yeah, I bet that's a lower premium than getting actual fractional pieces at that point,
Yeah,
probably. I'd have to do the math, but for silver, certainly.
yeah, I mean, I've seen the fractional coins where it's like a pie and,
Yeah,
you just snap it, type of thing. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, but if I had these coins and I love the coins, like, I mean, again, emotionally, like, I don't want to break up this coin and whatever. It's probably the
yeah,
same with jewelry, but
yeah,
easy to. If you needed to do it, uh, it's fractional. I was thinking this morning too, I was like, with a 12 gauge, just a simple circular link
mm,
in gold, if someone wanted, I could make that, not solder it. I mean, you wouldn't, once it's work hardened, it's not coming apart
Yeah.
easily. But if you
Mhm.
needed to, you could just take off a link kind of thing.
Yeah.
Necklace becomes a bracelet, whatever. If you absolutely needed to do that.
Yeah,
So that's kind of
that's
all I got.
something surprisingly until like you had just mentioned it a minute ago. I have never thought about in my life, but that actually makes a lot of sense. That's a kind of a I guess a big advantage because yeah, like there are those the combi bars or whatever that are like 100 grams and you can break them off by
Oh
grams.
yeah.
But I guess it's like a kind of a similar idea, but that's something that isn't going to be necessarily something that's looked at as like an investment. It's kind of just looked at as like your property, I guess. Like going back to the confiscation in the 1930s, if that were to ever happen again, or if even specifically with silver, if that has to be used as a strategic metal or something, and the government steps in, starts to do weird stuff. Probably see a lot more jewelry. So I guess if you have some of that already, there's a lot of those advantages to it there, where it's I guess more you would think jewelry would be like when I think jewelry, I kind of think like it's more flashy, but it does kind of
Mhm.
blend in more. Like somebody wearing a chain is something you see more every day than somebody with a bullion coin.
Yeah, yeah.
It kind of like just blends into the background of life better, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So
Yep.
hopefully the government doesn't come in and try to confiscate precious metals or do any weird stuff like that. Hopefully, we don't have hyperinflation, but things do repeat. So, you know,
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows? But that is very. I honestly that idea of breaking the kind of links apart. Yeah, that's something I'll have to think about that because that I somehow had never even thought of that. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Um,
Yeah, we've got thoughts about, down the road, maybe making little coins or small like
mhm.
medallions or charms, almost like ancient coins that have the hole in the middle, right? For
Yeah,
carrying and stuff and such.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, again, just something, it's something to collect. People like to collect things,
yeah.
but then again, if it has an additional benefit of,
Hmm.
hey, this is money when you need it. And this is Asian company or countries,
Yeah.
Europe, they this is normal this to them,
Hmm.
high carat gold jewelry is their wedding gifts and their
Yeah.
dowries, and it's their wealth, and that's how they keep their money is
Hmm.
in jewelry. I think that's maybe sadly changing a little bit, but
Yeah.
um, maybe not so much now. Gold, a lot of interesting things are happening right now.
Yeah, I did a podcast episode where I interviewed somebody about their experiences in East Asia and how much different that was with gold compared to in the West. And it is, and I'll put a little card for those watching the video if you want to watch that episode. It should be in the upper right corner. Um, but yeah, I was very surprised that it was all very jewelry centric, where in the West, it seems, at least at this point in time, that it's all very coin and bar centric. Which probably
Mm-hmm.
has to do with the premiums and other things we've discussed, and the fact that most gold is not, 24 karat, or most gold jewelry isn't 24 karat. It's usually 14 or less. Um, there's
Mm-hmm.
various different things. So anyway, we've been talking for about 45 minutes, or close to it. So I did want to kind of ask you, um, you know, as far as um, high purity jewelry, like that's made out of gold and silver, like what you make. What do you see for that market kind of going forward into the future? Like, do you see that becoming more and more popular or kind of staying relatively niche for most people? Or like, I'm just curious how you see that going in the future.
Well, I sure hope it becomes more common and
Yeah.
well known. I mean, that's kind of my mission, my quest to
Mhm.
educate, inform people about gold
Mhm.
and carat system and the value of it and the investment
Mhm.
potential. So yeah, I would love to see that. Even if there's more quote competition, I'd love that.
Mhm.
Um, because yeah, I mean, when I look at every once in a while, I'll kind of research or go out and look at jewelry that's out there.
Mhm.
And what did I see at Costco not too long? It was kind of like simple paperclip, but it said Italian 14 karat gold paperclip necklace or something,
Yeah.
And I'm like, Italian, like, and it was just basic. Like there was like,
Yeah.
and so I thought, well, that's really interesting. Like gold is gold,
Yeah.
but are they marketing this as Italian? It's something special. Well, the reason is it's illegal to sell anything less than 18 karat gold in Italy.
Oh,
So they ship it here. Well, maybe
yeah.
not if there's tariffs. Like that's not, it's like so they make it sound special. And it's
Yeah.
like, again, if it was some Italian designer and it was really
Mhm.
unique, it's like a coin that's rare.
Yeah.
That has its own value of its own. But boy, when I look at jewelry companies, and I just saw a bracelet, it was a men's bracelet that was 10 carat, 10 carat,
Mhm.
9 inches hollow,
Yeah.
and they had it for like $4,800.
Wow.
And I want to educate people. If you're going to buy jewelry,
Get the
just
good stuff.
know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question, but boy, I would love to see it become more common, because to me, 14 karat gold is not gold; it's an alloy.
Yeah.
That's just me. And 10 karat gold, I'm like, nah, that's yellow silver. Like I don't know what that is, but
Yeah.
it's not gold to me. So, and I don't know. That probably I don't want to sound pretentious. It's just how I feel about gold and silver. It's like that's not gold.
Yeah. No, I definitely know what you mean. I mean, I do like my stuff, my 90% coins and even my like 35%, but I will take fine silver any day of the week when it comes to gold. Like the only gold piece that I really had, that was 14 karat, I sold after I got it. I wanted the pure stuff. I traded it in for, I think I traded that in for silver actually. But um, anyway,
Smart.
it was great to have you on though. I will put your website and your Twitter or X account in the description.
Awesome.
It was great talking to you. I learned a bit about jewelry because I don't really know much about it. I know a little bit more now too, and I figured, oh, maybe my audience is like me. So we'll see. I guess guys, let me know if you learned anything about jewelry in the comments, especially that about cutting up chains for like fractional pieces. I don't know how I had never even considered that until 15 minutes ago or whatever.
Awesome.
But I'll put all your stuff down in the description. And I guess before we go, anything else you'd like to say or about jewelry or about gold and silver in general?
No, just thank you for having me. It was so fun to chat. I could talk about gold and silver all day for
Mhm.
days.
Yeah.
I love your podcast. I've watched several with Lauren, and it's just so fun to to hear that generation stacking, and they're
Mhm.
just excited about fine silver. Absolutely love it. And so, yeah, it was a pleasure to chat with you.
Well, thank you very much for being on. And thank you to everybody who watched till the end. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.